So first I want to start off by saying Barakatham, Yahweh Shah Shah. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the whole flesh throughout the 144,000 Shalom. Right, so Shalom, right? I'm outside, me and my youngest son, he's from New York, so he don't get to experience the good down south weather a lot like that, so we right here walking around the block and, want to get the works done, Lord willing, while we out here, right? So I've been watching Elder Pastor Gabar lesson, about the melting pot. He was going in about the, the parable of the melting pot, and how, how America's that melting pot, because when you understand it, right, when Ezekiel prophesied that, that the bones came together, through this word, through the scriptures, Yahweh Shah breathe that breath into them, the understanding of this truth, the understanding of this word, and, it come to life spiritually, right? But that melting pot, this dark kingdom here, it breaks the bones, like it says in Micah chapter 3, right? It breaks the bones apart, and throws them in that pot, that caldron, if I'm saying it right. It's like I'm saying it wrong, but that caldron, man, it breaks the bones apart, and that's that American lifestyle. It takes them away from this truth, right? Because you have, and it made me lead me to the point, being, the title of this lesson, that narrow passage, because you have a lot of people who, you have a lot of people they can't focus on the narrow passage, right? Like it says in 2 Ezra 7, right, when it's talking about, that narrow passage being so small that only one man could go at a time, right? Because, you gotta put out every way of this world, because if you try to hold on to anything in this world, then you ain't gonna focus on the narrow passage, you know what I'm saying? Because the passage is so small that only one man can go at a time, right? So you don't want to be too distracted, right? You don't want to be too, you don't want no distraction in the truth, right? This thing's like we're like into a marriage to Yahweh Shah, we're like into a marriage to Yahweh Shah, right? See this, put my bottle back in me on this sun, huh? All right, sorry for that, but like into a marriage to Yahweh Shah, right? And in that marriage, you gotta be locked in all the way in. You know what I'm saying? So you can hold the bottle, bro. Hold the bottle. There you go. But you gotta be locked all the way in, you gotta be sincere with this thing, right? And that goes into putting off all these wicked ways and all these things of this world. You gotta be ready to do that. You gotta be willing to do that, let me see. Matthew's 5. No, actually, Matthew's 19, right? And verse. These dogs, man. Start at verse 28, right? And it says, "And Yahushua said unto them, right? Verily, verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye shall also sit upon the 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel." Right? When we get into the kingdom, when we follow Yahushua doing the things down here, right? We focusing on that narrow, that narrow passage. Because you gotta think, even Israelites who know they're Israelites within this truth, right? It'd be hard for a lot of them to put off things of this world, family, things that they had going, might be, a lot of things in this world it'd be hard for them to put off. They be second guessing it, but ain't no second guessing in the truth. Ain't no doubting it. You either in or you ain't. You know what I'm saying? Because all Israel will be saved, right? But Matthew 5:19 tell you, right? You got least in the kingdom of heaven, you got great in the kingdom of heaven, right? Those great, the ones who followed the narrow passage, those great ones the elect, the ones who did the will of Yahweh, right down here, doing our part down here, right? He said they'll be sitting upon the 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Right? But it keep going on. It says, everyone that hath forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands for my name's sake, right? For my name's sake, you got to be ready to forsake these things. You got to be ready to let these things go. I mean, the video I seen, right, it said you got to be ready to compromise, man. You got to be ready to let all this stuff go, because this stuff is nothing, right? Because our main focus is what, that narrow passage. This narrow passage is a small passage, man. It ain't where you can. It's so small that one man can go at a time. So that means, how they be walking on like them bridges or them tight ropes, and they got to put one step in front of the other each time. That's how it is in this passage, man. Ain't no taking no wide stuff. Ain't no stepping off. It's like, man, you got to be focused in this thing. And granted, when I mean stepping off, I mean like, like as if you walking and you accidentally slip on the side of something and you're finna fall off. Of course, in this we sold under this we sold under sin in this flesh, but at the same time you got to remain focused. Ain't no sinning willfully. Hebrews 10:26. You got to remain focused, man. You got to do you got to strive as much as you can. You got to push as much as you can, right? You got to stay strong in this thing, right? Because you got a lot of temptations that's gonna try to pull you away, but the elect gonna remain. But to keep reading, right? It says. I start over, right? And everyone that have forsaken houses or brethren or sister or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life, right? Many that shall be last, many that shall be first shall be last, and the last shall be first, right? Because how the elect seem like the outcast, the lame, the dumbfounded, the last ones, the lame ones. Because you put off things in this world, you're not tasting after glory and honor in this world. You're not tasting after those things, right? You're not following after the wicked things in this world. You focus on this truth, and that's gonna make you seem odd down here. But in reality, and if you understand it and you get it, you'll understand that this is the true way. This is the only way. This the only way it should be. But that melting pot, man, that melting pot, that wide gate, they have people so unfocused, right? Because you got a lot of people who do their own way. You got a lot of people come in this truth, right, and fall right back into the world, or come in the truth, try to go their own way, coming up with their own names, coming up with their own, their own doctrines, right? Because why? They not of the truth, right? You got false prophets, He say, let me see, bear with me, 2 John, actually 1 John 2, and I ain't had no precept wrote down, but I just had a lot on my mind, Lord, we'll lead, we'll go from where the Spirit takes us away. Let me see. Bear with me. Right here, right? Matthew 24. Let me see where I want to start at. We'll just get straight to the point. Matthew 24:11. And many false prophets shall rise and deceive many. Because you're gonna have many false prophets who come out here thinking they know the truth, they know this thing, going their own way, right? Come with their own knowledge, adding on and taking away, right? We know they're gonna be destroyed, but they're not leading the righteous way, right? Because they come this thing and doing their own thing, right? Because why? Because they doing it for money. They doing it for fame. They doing it for some other odd reason, but to be honorable and glorified in the name of Yahweh, right? They doing it for all other odd reasons, right? But we know the elect, and excuse me if the wind blowing, I'm trying to keep the phone closer, we know that the elect gonna remain in this thing. The elect gonna stay true to this thing, right? The elect gonna, the elect gonna do the righteous thing. The elect gonna focus on that narrow passage. With that being said, we're gonna take everything cheerfully, right? When we're in a lower state, when things get hard, right? So we know we made perfect through our sufferings, right? Let me see if I can find this precept real fast. It's better to suffer with righteous men. It's better to suffer with that's a good precept right there, but that's not the one I'm looking for. Yeah. Hebrews 11. All right, and we'll bring out 1 Peter as well, right? Because that's actually a good precept. But, right? Let me see. Hebrews chapter 11, and it reads, right? And it says, right? Hebrews 11:25, right? Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Yahweh than to enjoy pleasure of sin for a season, right? That's that focus, man. That's that focus. We'll suffer this affliction, right? We'll go through these things. We'll put out the world. We'll put out that old man. Change the whole way of life to abide in the truth, to be in the truth, right? Because we know this is the truth. This is the true ruby, man. This is better than fine gold, better than all of it, man. Ain't nothing greater than, you know, being woke spiritually in this truth. Ain't nothing greater than Yahweh Shah giving us this knowledge. But you have a lot who can't focus on this thing. It says many are called, right? Matthew 22:14, right? It says many are called, but few are chosen. Many are called, few are chosen. Because you ain't gonna have many who find the straight gate, man. You gonna have a lot of people who come here playing around with it, right? They don't understand what they're really getting into. They don't understand, you know, how the apostle said, how deadly serious this truth is, man. They play around in it, man. You know? I got you, son. But they play around in it, man. They acting like, you know, they don't really know what they tied into. You know, and a lot of people try to play this thing, you know, as a religious thing, you know, as a thing. This day, oh, they could just be like this day, not next day. It don't matter if you believe or you don't believe, right? Because in the day, guess what? Like Apostle Har always say, you an Israelite, and by, you know, this is a heritage. This is a bloodline thing. You know, this is a heritage thing. This ain't no, you know, go from this church that church. Man, no. This is who you are. But only the ones who focus on that narrow passage be able to understand that. You know, and the Elder Apostle Tahar brought out Elder Apostle Gabar brought out a good precept about, you know, about dark sayings, right? Because many ain't gonna be able to understand that dark saying, but the elect will. Romans 11:7, right? The elect will be able to understand these dark sayings, understand these parables, understand this knowledge, right? Many are trying to say, what's a narrow passage? That narrow passage is putting out things in this world. Just think about it, man. You got all these things in this world you can go out here and be. They make honor for and glorify. That's why they put it in front of your face so much. The TV, they put all the rappers on TV. They put the football player. They make everything glorified. All the followers and all the money, you know, things of that nature, right? Things that, you know, the things that Yahweh Shah was tempted with. Matthew's I didn't want to quote it wrong, so I just go to it real fast. Matthew chapter 4, right? And I get straight to the point, right? He say. Matthew 4:8, right? And this is Satan, right? The demon of doubt, right? He trying to test Yahweh Shah, right? I saw the verse 7. He said, Yahweh Shah said to him, it is written again, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy power. Right? He says, Matthew 4:8, again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them. He said unto them, all these things will I give thee that will fall down and worship me. Then Yahweh said to him, get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, thou shalt worship the Lord Yahweh, and him shalt thou only serve, man. Right, but you got these people, they going off, you know, and that's why this narrow passage is so small, because you got a lot of people who they lost, man. They walking in darkness, they don't go, they don't know. And you got a lot of people who come in the truth, you know, they think they in the light, but they still holding on to dark ways. Therefore, what? They slip and fall off, man. Fall right back into the world. You gotta be locked in this thing. You gotta be sincere with this. You gotta be sincere with this thing. That's what it says, Ecclesiastes. You know, you gotta be sincere to a vow, because it's better to not make a vow with the Most High than to break it, right? You better off standing in the world, man. You know, but when you come in this thing, you gotta remain focused. You gotta be sober, be vigilant, right? Let me see. 1 Peter 5:8, it says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil as a roaring lion walketh about seeing who he may devour, right? And that temptation come through anything, right? You have a lot of these things where the temptation can come through, man. You know, you have a lot of ways it come through women. He try to come through women, try to come through some type of money. Somebody offer you a large sum of money, right? You have somebody, you know, you have a friend, right? You have a brother or sister, you know, all these things. That's why you got to remain focused. That's why, how I said, them who have forsaken mother, brethren, father, houses. You got to forsake these things. You got to put off the ways of this world, man. You got to put off that old man, you know, and you got to come focus solely in this truth, man. You know, because if you don't, these things going to grab you up. These things going to grab you and swallow you up. That's why it says in Ephesians, man, you got to put on the whole armor. You got to put on the whole armor, because if you don't, these things going to grab you. Like, you know, like me and the brothers mentioned a lot of times at camp, you know, people try to get out here and fight these things on their own, not understanding that we're not fighting carnal things. We're fighting spiritual wickedness in high places, right? The hierarchy of Satan, man. They got these things set up, right? The wind blowing kind of hard, you know. They got these things. Well, let's go into the garage. They got these things set up for to distract you. That's that melting pot, man. That's that melting pot. And I'll just read a quick precept on that melting pot real fast. You know, excuse the wind blow hard. Hold on. Right? But I'll read a quick precept on that melting pot real fast, right? Micah 3:3, right? And it says, who also shall eat the flesh of my people and flay their skin from off them, right? As we talked about earlier, right? Ezekiel 37, when it's prophesied that, the skin, the bones, and everything gonna come together through this word, through this scripts, through this knowledge, right? But you got Esau, Edom, this Babylon, right? This melting pot, right? Was teared off. And people who follow it, and like Apostle Gabar said in his lesson, and the people who follow after this world, right? You just becoming stew bones for the pot. Like he said, Yahweh outside the great chef. You just become ingredients for the pot, man. Right? But he said, who also eat the flesh off my people and flay their skin from off them, and they break their bones and chop them in pieces, as for the pot and as the flesh within the caldron. Right? It tear it up, It's where this world tear it up. Because you got Jake out here, they gotta become the best rapper. They gotta become the best trapper. They gotta become the greatest football player, But you can't tell them, hey, get out of this world. Hey, depart from them things, man. Them things mean nothing. The fashion of this world passes away. Micah 2:10, depart, for this is not your rest. Right? You shall be destroyed with sword destruction, was paraphrasing. Jake don't want to hear that. They want to hear about how they can make $1 million real fast. They want to hear about, how they gonna get all the honeys, get all the girls. You know what I'm saying? That's all they focus on, right? So, close it out. I don't want to be too long so I can get in here, getting prepared before I had to go in for work. Got a few quick precepts going in on that straight gate and narrow passage, right? Luke 13, right? And I started verse 23, right? Last I started verse 22, right? It says, and he went through the cities, he went through the cities, right? And you can see it's talking about Yahweh Shai because it's in that red talking, right? And it said, and he went through the cities and villages teaching and journeying toward Jerusalem, right? How you said in the Hebrew, Jerusalem, right? Then said one unto him, Lord, are there be few that be saved? And he said unto them, right? Listen now, there be few that be saved. But we just read earlier, Matthew 22:14, right? Meaning they're called, few are chosen. He says, strive to enter into the straight gate. For many I say unto you will seek to enter in, and shall not be able. Right? You got to strive to enter into the straight gate. The vein, to focus on the right things. Putting out the ways of this world. Right? He said that, if you were a friend to this world, you're an enemy to Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. Because things of the world gonna do nothing but tear you off, tear you apart. How you focus on things of the world. But we focus on the straight gate, right? Couple more precepts. He ready to get out this scroller, right? Matthew 7:13, right? It says, enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, right? Because why? Because that wide gate, that's the things of this world. Revelation 17:2. You can be anything you want in Babylon. You can be anything you want in America, man. They ain't gonna tell you to focus on the truth. They're gonna tell you to go out here. If you're a boy, they're gonna tell you can be a girl. If you're a girl, they're gonna tell you can be a boy. Not to get into too much in that. You know how you two get. They're gonna tell you, you need to go out here and mix to the NFL. They're gonna tell you, hey, take this $1 million, you change your family life. Right? They're gonna do everything to keep you. They trying to cut us off from being a nation, man. The scriptures say that they're trying to cut us off from being a nation, so they try to use anything. They try to use anything to consult the hidden ones, man. Who the hidden ones? The Israelites who don't know that they're Israelites, man. They try to do anything to keep us down. But the elect, that's why now this truth for the elect. Another point, like Apostle Gabar talk about in this lesson, right? That's why that tabernacle of David is being rebuilt. Right? The elect, the ones who understand, right? That's why we being built. And everything else, hey, you're either going to return this knowledge or you're going to be destroyed, right? You're going to be ingredients for the pot, right? But it says, enter ye into the straight gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. And many there be which go in thereat. Everybody want to take that easy route, right? He said, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way. Narrow is the way, man. Just, focus on that narrow passage, right? It says, which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it, right? He said, beware of false prophets which come unto you in sheep clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves, right? You shall know them by their fruits, right? You should know them by their fruits, their works, the things they're doing. What he says in James 2, right? I show you my faith through my works. Get out here prophesying, teaching the right name. They ain't teaching you the right name. They ain't telling you to prophesy. Name Yahweh, the Father, Bahashem, in the name of the Son, Yahweh Shai. You automatically should get away from them, right? You automatically get away from them, man. Right? He said, you shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Right? You don't want to get what you dealing with unrighteousness for. You know, ain't no need to. If they ain't teach you the right things, how you focus on the, the straight things, the straight gate, then depart from them, man. Right? You know, and we can end it off with this one right here. Second Esdras, we'll start at 7. We'll start at verse 3. We'll start at verse 3, right? And I said, I speak on my power. Then he said to me, the sea is set a wide place. It might be a deep and great. But the entrance were narrow like a river, right? It says, who then could go up into the sea and look upon it and rule it if he went not through the narrow, right? You see the wide, right? But the entrance is like a river. It's small, right? Who gonna be the entrance to the kingdom of Yahweh if they don't walk through this narrow passage? Not the wide gate, not the easy thing. Who gonna be the entrance to the kingdom? They don't focus on this righteous thing, doing the will of Yahweh, right? He said, how could he come into the broad? He said, there's also another thing. A city is built and set upon the broad field, right? And these parables, these dark sayings that, only the elect will be able to understand, right? Once again, right? He said, a city is built, Matthew 13 talk about it. And I want to say, Elder Apostle brought out Psalms 77, or 78. Hold up, real fast. My son's just in the background talking. 78, right? 78, right? I read it real fast, right? He said, Mashal of Aspers, give an ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in the parable, and I will utter dark sayings, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us, right? So only the elect gonna understand these things. Only the chosen ones gonna understand these things, right? These dark sayings. The rest of them ain't gonna be able to understand it, right? But to get back to it, Second Esdras 7, right? Finish it off. He said, there is also another thing. A city is built and set upon a broad field, and it's full of good things. The entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like is there fire on the right hand, and on the left, deep water. Why? Because you have things that's trying to pull you off. You got this temptation. You got all these things. You got the girls. You got the money. You got the fame and all that other word that they try to put out there, right? But you got to remain focused. Because you slip off, man, you're going to fall back to that world. You're going to be back to smoking again. You're going to be back to adultery. You got all these things that try to pull you away. But you got to remain focused on the narrow passage, man, right? And it says, and one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. It's so small, but only one man can go there at once. So you got to remain focused, man. This ain't no wide gate where everybody going to go into. This ain't no thing where you gonna see your cousin, your brother thing. No, you ain't gonna see everybody at this one, man. You gotta focus. That's why he said you set apart, man. You gotta be chosen, man. You chose, you set apart, man. And you gotta take that cheerfully, man. You gotta get out here and stir up and stay focused, right? That narrow passage, man. So with that being said, right, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and shout out to the whole flesh star with 144,000 Shalom. Lord willing, let's edify. We back with another lesson soon. Shalom.